Can you really go to law school? Like, is it really realistic for you to think about going to law school? Should you listen to everything that people say on Reddit? I don't know. Today, we're going to talk about busting some law school myths that I just, I love to bust them because so many times we have a tendency to tell ourselves no to opportunities that we really should be telling ourselves yes to. And if we aren't careful, we will let the world tell us no to things that are meant for us. So, in this episode, we are going to talk about all the law school myths that are holding you back from applying to law school, why they aren't true, and why you absolutely deserve to be a lawyer. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sydney Montgomery. I'm the founder and executive director here at Barrier Breakers. We are a nonprofit that specializes in working with first generation minority and immigrant law school applicants. And I am excited to bust some myths. So here we go. The first myth: I majored in chemistry, art, dance, music, philosophy. I majored in kinesiology, so I probably am not competitive to be a lawyer. Well, first off, to all you philosophy majors, there are many of you who apply to law school, so you're in good company. To everyone else, you're still in good company. You don't have to major in anything specific in order to be a lawyer or in order to go to law school. So, one of my favorite friends from law school, and I went to Harvard Law, if you don't know. One of my favorite friends is a woman who I won't name her name, but I found out my one all year that she danced with Beyonce. And I was like, what is happening? What is happening? She also danced with Britney Spears. She's just a very cool human. She's a very cool human for other reasons too, just a nice, genuine, beautiful soul. But I was intrigued. Okay, I came to law school at 21 and I was like, you met Beyonce? And she was like, yeah, I danced with her. I know her. And I was like, I mean, it was like I think it was as close to meeting someone famous at that time. Just someone like Beyonce is up here and I am down here, like on the ground. Beyonce, me, and my friend had danced with Beyonce, so I needed to know everything. And she had been a professional dancer for 18 years. That's what she did. And she had been in movies and all over. I mean, I danced in college, but I was not dancing with Beyonce. Okay, so yeah. Um, but she had an entire beautiful career as a professional dancer before deciding to go to law school. And that was so mind blowing to me. And it really opened my eyes to the various pathways that you could take to go to law school. Now, I also had law school classmates who were FBI agents, some were teachers, some were stay at home moms, some people were in the military. Everyone had such a wide range of experiences, and everyone had such a wide range of things they studied in college. And that's kind of the beauty of law school. First off, only about 20% of students actually go straight from undergrad to law school. I was in that 20%, but most of my classmates weren't. A lot of people take time off between undergrad and college, and that could be 1 or 2 years, or that could be 10, 15, 20 years. I have so many stories of my friends who have had wonderful careers doing something completely unrelated to the law. But then there was a moment or an incident or just a thought or an inkling or a passion that continued to develop over time that really drew them back to law school. And there are a lot of really great ways that your diverse experiences could relate to law, right? If you have a career as a professional dancer or actor and you want to go into entertainment law to defend the rights and the creative freedoms of those in the entertainment industry, you're going to be a kick ass lawyer because you are going to know everything there is about that industry. So when you have clients in that industry, you will get them in ways that I, as not a professional dancer, will not understand quite as much. If you are interested in IP or patent law, your science background could really come in handy. And I think that leads me to my second myth that I want to bust, which is I'm too old to go to law school, or I'll be too old if I wait another year to go to law school. I cannot tell you how many times I have this conversation with people, and maybe it is because I went straight through that people like they don't really believe me. They're like, "Okay, Sydney, but you graduated law school when you were 24." I did. And and I might have been slightly better as a lawyer if I had been older. Just going to say it. Like, I practiced law. It was great, but also real world experience is lovely. And yes, most people do take between 2 to 3 years off before going to law school, but there are also lots of people who go to law school in their 40s and their 50s. I had classmates who went to law school in their 40s and their 50s. And if Harvard Law School can take people in their 40s and their 50s, then I think every law school can take people in their 40s and their 50s, right? It is never too late. And think about the career that you're going to have. Let's say you go to law school and you're 42. You finish law school, you're 45. You can still practice law and have a beautiful 20, 25-year career, probably even make partner if you so desire, and retire at 65, 70. I mean, I see nothing wrong with that. I really don't. And to be honest, a lot of people don't last in the law as long as they used to. So you really don't have a disadvantage, right? Like, there aren't a lot of people who start practicing law at 25 and stay until they're 70. That's just not what usually ends up happening. So the reality is like that 20, 25 year career trajectory that you can have between 45 and 65, 70 is probably just as long as you would have had in the law if you had gone straight through. So you're not really missing out on anything. And I often get this question less from people over the age of 40 and actually more from people who are like 26 and they feel very old. And then I feel very old because if you're old, what am I, right? But I get a lot of like 26-year-olds who are like, yeah, I just feel like I'm behind. All of my other friends have already gone to law school. I feel like I can't wait. I can't put it off any longer because I'm already so old. To which I say, you are not old. You are very much not old. You will graduate law school when you're 29 or 30. That you will be very fine. You will, like, actually, I think it's just better a little bit. Like, if you're going straight through from undergrad to law school, that's fine. I did that. I got a job. I practiced law. You'll be great. But also being 30 and having, again, some work experience, being able to relate to your clients who, for the most part, are not in their 20s, right? Like clients or even corporations, if you're going to big law partners, like everyone is kind of a little older. So being a little older and having some understanding of how you work in an office setting, understanding of how you relate to team members, understanding of how you balance work life and other responsibilities or things that are important to you, that's great. You are just a more seasoned, more settled adult when you go into legal practice, and there is nothing wrong with starting your law career in your 30s. Absolutely nothing wrong. So then this other myth that really irks me is when people say, I can't go to a good law school if I don't get a 170 on my LSAT. And I mean, if that were true, I would have been in trouble because I did not get a 170 on my LSAT exam. And I still went to Harvard. I also did not have a 4.0, and we'll get to that one too. But we have helped hundreds of students at Barrier Breakers apply to law school. And we just had some data survey done about our students by an amazing intern. And if you're listening to this and you are interested in data analysis or data internships, holler at me because we always have data. We always have data. But one of our data interns found out that the average LSAT score of our students, just across the board, was about a 155. Now, of course, we have students that are scoring high in the 160s and 170s, of course. And we have students that come to us with very low LSAT scores. We are a nonprofit. We take everyone, regardless of your LSAT score, because we have seen that, a lot of people with a range of LSAT scores can still be great attorneys. But I want to really stress that she found out that our average LSAT score with students was about a 155. Okay. Statistically, what I know is of the students that we work with one-on-one, about 54%, 54% of those students that apply to a top 14 law school get into a top 14 law school. 66% of our students who apply get at least a half tuition scholarship to law school. 30% of our students get at least a full tuition scholarship to law school. So that myth was that if I don't get a 170, I can't go to a good law school. I mean, I'm just looking at our students, and I think we have many students that would disagree with that. Many students that would disagree with that. Most of our students don't get a 170 or above. Like, that's just the truth of the matter. And there are all sorts of reasons for that. The LSAT is an expensive test. Test prep requires not just money, but time. There's all sort of systemic educational barriers. I can make a whole video on this. But the point that I'm trying to get across is that you are significantly more than your LSAT score. You have always been more than your LSAT score and your GPA, which we're getting to. You have so much more to offer law schools, and law schools care so much more than just what one number says. And if you let that number limit yourself, you are doing yourself such a grave disservice. So if you hear nothing else from this video, know that I did not have a 170, and I still went to Harvard Law School, and most of our students do not have 170s. And every year we have students that get into all kinds of schools, including, yes, the top 14. We have students that get into the top 14 law school every single year, the top 5 every single year. And most of those students do not end up having a 170. I'm just going to leave it like that. Your essays are very important. Okay. That next myth is I can't get into a good law school if I don't have a 4.0. I'm even going to break it down and say I can't go to law school if I don't have a 3.0. You can. You can go to law school with less than a 3.0. Now, it really matters why. And it matters when, and it matters your circumstances. GPA is one of those things that I think people really don't understand as much, because it's a snapshot of who you were during a specific 4 years of your life. And, before you say, but what about my master's degree programs? Usually people are looking at your undergraduate GPA. And we work with a wide range of students, right? All the way from as young as 19 to as old as 67 on their law school applications. So for some people, their undergraduate GPA was 40 years ago. That is insane, right? So there are things that you can do to overcome a lower GPA, especially if it is so long ago that it's not really representative of who you are as a person anymore. And also, if there were things that happened, if you had extenuating circumstances, if you got sick, if you had to work a few jobs, if you experienced homelessness, if you were the victim of a sexual or domestic assault, there's so many things that might have happened in those 4 years to contribute to your GPA. And law schools care about the context of your GPA, even if it was that you just started off pre-med and then had a come to Jesus moment and realized that pre-med wasn't for you. There are things that we can do about your GPA. We have had students who have gone to great schools, top 50, top 25 schools with lower than a 3.0. Now, does that mean that you can go anywhere you want with lower than a 3.0? Not necessarily. It really, really depends on the circumstances around your GPA. It depends on the circumstances with your entire educational history and your work history. There's, again, so much that goes into it. But you can't just make a blanket black or white statement, less than a 3.0, I can't go to law school, or I can't go to good law school. If you've learned nothing from this video, absolutes don't really get you very far. And then my last myth that I'm going to debunk for you is I can't afford to go to law school unless I go to law school part-time. Now, this one is very tricky. And we have a video on part-time law schools, and part-time law schools absolutely make sense for a good number of people, right? There are definitely those circumstances where a part-time law school makes sense. And there are also times when students would benefit from going full-time and getting a full ride with maybe a stipend at a law school, and that would be more advantageous to them than maybe not getting as much scholarship money at a part-time school, perhaps, or trying to juggle part-time work and working, because the myth is that part-time law school is not as hard, but if you're working full-time and then going to school and then reading and then maybe trying to figure out internships or clinics or externships or summer associate positions with your full-time job, it can be overwhelming. And again, for some people, part-time law school makes all the sense in the world. It is absolutely the right decision. But for some people, they make that decision too quickly because they just discount full-time law school as not affordable. They say, I can't afford to lose my job. I can't afford to leave my job, right? But sometimes, not all the time, so this is where like budgeting and spreadsheets come out, and I'm a big budgeter. I really like using YNAB. You need a budget. It's just, I love budgeting. But that's where you need to really look at the numbers and figure out, okay, what are my living expenses now with my salary? What would my living expenses be if I went to law school and I had either a full tuition scholarship or I could borrow for the cost of living or whatever it is, right? What is my loan debt in each situation? What am I responsible for on a monthly basis? What is my capacity to work in each situation and still do well at school? So that is a much more nuanced conversation. But the myth that I'm trying to bust, that is always more affordable to do part-time law school, and it is not always more affordable. Sometimes it's actually more affordable to go full-time, but that really depends on your circumstance. So I hope this was helpful. We also have a free course if you have an LSAT fee waiver, or if you don't, it's $19. The Master Your Personal and Diversity Statement course. So if you're trying to figure out how to get started with writing your essays, this is an absolute gem for you because it'll walk you through every single step that you need to get started writing your essays. And of course, if you have questions, you can always reach out to me at bit.ly/breakingthelawschool. I would love to hear from you. I'd love to answer your questions. And make sure that you are sharing this video with a friend. Do you have a friend that's believing some myths? Well, now that you have gotten educated, maybe your friend can get educated too. So share this video with them, like and subscribe, rate and follow, and I can't wait to talk to you guys soon.